Okay, so the West is super advanced and they're coming to a continent near you. But what exactly are they after? God, gold, and glory is dead. A few days ago, I called this new driving factor M&Ms. Raw materials to go into their factories and markets to sell the goods that come out of the factories. So what raw materials are they after? Today we review the global economic development in the early modern period. 6.1 was the excuses. 6.2 was the action. 6.3 was the reaction. 6.4 is the what. What exactly are they after? Go to the map. Having gone through Unit 5 and the first bit of Unit 6, you should know what imperialism is. But global economic development in 6.4 wants you to understand exactly what the West is after. And that's what this map is all about. Some of these are left over from previous periods. Things like cotton in the American South, or Egypt, or British India, or wheat in the American heartland, or France. But let's highlight two major changes here. First, rubber. Back in 1844, American Charles Goodyear figured out the formula to vulcanize rubber. Rubber tires would melt in hot conditions and become useless. Want to make some vulcanized rubber at home? Try adding sulfur to the gum from a rubber plant. The rubber will maintain its dexterity without melting or becoming sticky. Goodyear patented the idea but died before making any major wealth off of it. And don't think this is just tires for cars. A lot of this is for wiring. Think of all the telegraph wires and electrical wires that are being put up all over as places modernize. A few years later, the Goodyear Company was named after him and rubber production expanded worldwide. But rubber was found in dense rainforests and was not easy to harvest. Nevertheless, it was profitable. Rubber originated in the Americas, but in 1876, a British merchant snuck 70,000 Amazonian rubber seeds out of the country and shipped them to England. From there, they spread quickly around the Western empires, most notably the Congo, which at this point is ruled personally by King Leopold II of Belgium. The profits from this expanding rubber trade led to some of the worst human rights abuses of all time, including the genocide of nearly 10 million Congolese. The second resource I want to focus on this map is guano. Guano is bat and bird poop. Gross, right? Wrong. Money ain't gross. It seems weird now, but until the 19th and 20th centuries when synthetics became available, bird poop was the best source for fertilizer. It was also used as a key ingredient in gunpowder. The 1800s were a wild time to be alive. Light your lamps with oil from a whale, and fertilize your crops and load your gun with poop from a bat. Good times. You may think that guano is hard to come by, and it is, except two places, caves and islands. Birds and bats need a place to rest, so these places, islands and caves, are out of the reach of most predators. And no one is lining these cages. Caves can be tough to mine, but islands are just sitting there. And the search for these islands is easily the weirdest motivation for imperialism in this period. My favorite part? The 1856 Guano Islands Act. It is U.S. federal law that if you find an island with guano on it that's unclaimed, we can have it. It's American. It's the law. There's no way that led to actual expansion, right? Wrong. These islands and these islands were all taken into the American empire due to this law. So when you think of global economic development, think of the M&Ms driving the West to go out and search for these raw materials. But before we go, we should address the idea of economic imperialism. This is the focus of 6.5. Here's a map. They want you to know that all imperialism isn't just straight up conquering. You can see here that the Europeans were not always in the empire building business. Sometimes they were in the business building business. Economic imperialism is sometimes called neo-colonialism. You don't have to take over Africa. You don't have to put some European guy in charge of China. Here's how it works. You develop an economic relationship with a country in which they become dependent on you for imports or assistance. Then nearly the entire economy of a country is completely dependent on a foreign nation. Voila! You now have control of a country without taking over a country. And there's a million examples here. Britain made China dependent on its opium imports. Britain became indispensable to the Argentinian economy. Both India and Egypt's cotton industry were dependent on British demand. West African palm oil production drove the economies of sub-Saharan Africa. American fruit companies had so much power over Central American countries that they were referred to as banana republics. And economic imperialism is most often found in Latin America or Asia. So you don't have to own a colony and force the people there to farm your rubber under the penalty of death. You can target an area that has something you require and create an economic dependency in which your investments are such a large part of the economy that you can essentially dictate how the government functions. We have really worked up a global economy over the past few units. Huge movements in goods and technology. But with global population growth and an increase in economic opportunities worldwide, people are no longer just going to stay in their homelands. What happens when so many people start moving one way or another that it gets labeled a migration? I'll see you tomorrow.